Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I once again invite you to this series where we continue talking about the conditions of the working people in Uganda. We have explained before in my past presentations. I have tried to explain the state of the working people in Uganda. Workers are working under very difficult working conditions, as I've indeed explained. And we are trying to see what is it that is making this situation to persist for all this long time. From days immemorial, ever since Uganda got independence, we have not seen anything that has seemingly helped the working people in Uganda to gain their social and economic justice. And as years go by, conditions are getting worse and worse. And we have been asking a question as to why is it that in spite of all the hard labor that people are involved in, desiring that they may be able to earn a better income so that they can be able to fulfill their purposes in life, why is it that the situation is instead getting worse and worse every other passing day? And through asking these questions, we also thought that it is important to examine the systems that we use to deliver social and economic justice. One of the things that I realized throughout this past period is that the parties or the social partners came to a realization that indeed there is abuse of labor rights. And they agreed that this abuse must be addressed. But they put in place systems that don't seem to be delivering social and economic justice to the workers. We've continued working through these systems over the years, but we realize that the systems don't seem to deliver social and economic justice. But unfortunately for us, who are advocates of rights of the working people, we seem to be continuing with the systems that have proved that they cannot deliver. I would want, for example, today, to examine one of these systems that is being used to deliver social and economic justice to the workers. To prove this point, in the year 2008, because of the great suffering that the public servants in Uganda were going through, a great pain, because we have always known that public servants over the past years were regarded as people who were really very poor. And this has been the trend for a very long time. Public servants, if a public servant died, even finding where to bury, you would just go and bury in the bush. A person who has been very useful, has served government, he has served diligently, some of them even decorated. But when you go to the places where they are born, or the places where they live, really it shows nothing else but misery. And in the year 2008, the partners agreed that there should be a law that should be put in place to ensure that we deliver social and economic justice to these groups of people. And during that time, there is a law that was passed. And this law is known as the Public Service Negotiating, Consultative and Disputes Settlement Machinery Act, number 10 of 2008. When this law was passed, it had a reason, it had a purpose. There is a reason why this law was passed. And the purpose for which this law was passed, one was to be able to enhance negotiation. Negotiations between government as an employer and the public service unions that are organizing and representing the public servants. And in this process of negotiation, there was established a National Negotiation and a Consultative Council. The National Negotiation and Consultative Council was put in place so that it can continue negotiation with the government as an employer to help improve the working conditions of the public servants in Uganda. The second aspect why this law was put in place was to enhance consultations even at lower levels. both at national and lower levels. Lower levels like at local governments, at departments of government, like parastatal entities that are not necessarily being governed by the traditional administrative structures of government. All of these local units, they would be formed committees, what we call consultative committees, for them to discuss and feed the National Consultative Council, so that when it comes to negotiation, the negotiations address the aspect of the public servants from the broader perspective. The law also established a dispute settlement machinery, where there was supposed to be established a tribunal that would be able to deal with issues of conciliation and arbitration of labor disputes for the public servants. The intentions for which this act was put in place, the intentions were really good. The purpose was really good. And we all had a hope that finally public servants are going to get social and economic justice. And this law came into effect after so many years of struggle and advocacy by public servants. And by the time it reached 2008, it had taken so many years for this law to be passed. And when the law was passed, we all expected that indeed from this point onwards, public servants, the predicament of the workers of public servants would receive some redress. But from the year 2008, we are now in the year 2023. When you examine what has come forth as a result of passing of this law, I want to ask you, brothers and sisters who are listening to me the other side, maybe to tell me, maybe I'm the one who is just naive, maybe I'm the one who does not seem to understand the benefits that the bringing in place of this law has delivered to the workers. From the year 2008, today is the year 2023. This is 15 years down the road. The machinery, public service negotiation, and consultative machinery, the council, it has never delivered anything tangible to the public servants in Uganda. I would want us to look at these things very soberly, because sometimes when we talk about it, people who are shallow-minded, who think that sitting on that council is important, can rise up against us. But I want us to be very honest. From the time the council was established, what is it that the public service unions have delivered to the public servants in Uganda? And let us be honest with ourselves. Let us say, as a result of this public service negotiation council negotiations we had on such and such a period, the following was achieved and the workers are driving a benefit. The public servants are still continuing with the archaic standing orders, what they call government standing orders. Some standing orders that have got provisions that are even unconstitutional. They are there. But from 2008 to date, the Public Service Negotiation Council is sitting. They are talking. I don't know what kind of discussions are going on in those meetings, but I would want to say that nothing has changed. The old archaic standing orders are still in effect, carrying forward the misery of the public servants. There is nothing that is coming out as a result of collective bargaining. I already talked to you about the failures by government to respect the collective bargaining agreement that was entered into between government and the public service unions. This therefore means that there is a problem with the system we have in place. Why is the system not delivering social and economic justice? And brothers and sisters in the public service unions, the only reasonable thing we have to do, like I did explain to you, is to pause a bit and say, wait a minute, what is this that we are doing? Where is it taking us? Because there is a possibility that you can be engaged to appear as if you are really working very hard to help public servants. but the system cannot deliver. And it is only fair that we re-examine and find out really what is the problem. You see, we are all sometimes behaving like the people who first manufactured the car. The people who first manufactured the car, actually, we are not even behaving like them. But we are maintaining a certain behavior that is failing us from moving forward. I want to use the example of the car manufacturer. The first car that was manufactured, I think it was using steam to generate power so as to drive the engine. And for that steam to be there, water had to be boiled. And some workers would be somewhere feeding the boiler with heat. Maybe if it is using firewood, so that the water can boil and produce steam. That steam would end up driving the engine, generating power to drive the engine. And that engine would be able to move the car. But from that time up to now, there has been a lot of developments that technology can no longer work. We have now moved to a point where now we are no longer using water for purpose of driving the engine. We've been using fuels, now electricity. Technology is improving. But for us in our case, we have got stuck to a system that is really not delivering justice to the workers. But we have persisted and continue using it for purpose with the hope that we shall deliver justice to the working people in public service. Colleagues, this machinery must be re-examined and be able to be improved upon. Just like the way you get new models of a car, we should get a new model of collective bargaining systems that are going to deliver justice to the workers. One of the things I would want to appeal to you brothers and sisters to consider is the fact that yes, the law says every public service union must nominate 2 people who are going to be part of the negotiations to constitute to be part of the negotiation council. Now we have got so far now about 14 or 15 public service unions. 14 or 15 public service unions will now translate to about 28 to 30 representatives who must sit on the council. Sit on the council for purposes of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining to improve the working terms and conditions of service. But even as the 2 people come to sit on the council, the 2 are representing a union. Every union has a position. Meaning that when we sit on the council, every union is going to present a position. We'll say now for me, I'm from the science union, the position of the scientist is this. Me, I'm coming from local government, the position of local government workers is this. Me, I come from the traditional service, maybe whatever, but the position of this is this. So we are having unions coming with positions. And those positions must be presented in the council. And the council must be able to deliberate to ensure that the workers in all of those groupings organized by the trade unions are getting social and economic justice. And remember, we do that knowing very well that these workers are on the same payroll of government, belonging to a particular scale. I can be in government, in local government, in the scale of this, but the same scale designed by government. So you cannot expect a position you are brought putting someone in scale of 5, another one brings a position putting another work in scale of 4. Or you are not going to set working terms and conditions of workers in the Namisindu and local government different from those of Manafa, or those of Ulambuli, or those of Gulu, or those of Hoima. Whatever the case, we must have the working terms and conditions of service be uniform. This means that now the 30 or 28 of us who are representing workers on public service negotiation council cannot deliver. That number, first of all, is too big. Too big. It will generate a lot of confusion in the negotiation that you cannot be able to effectively negotiate with government. We need at most, actually the highest number would require, will not go beyond 5. But if it is possible, we will have like 3 people who are empowered and are supported by research for them to go and negotiate for the workers. Colleagues in the public service, those you who are leaders in the public service unions, do not be very fast to desire that you must belong to that council. It is very important that we make that council to function and to function effectively. We cannot function effectively by having that whole big number that is sitting on that council. And the council must be reconstituted. We must pursue a direction where even the law is amended. Because the way the law is structured right now, there are provisions there that curtail our abilities to effectively negotiate for the workers. For example, why should we have people who are going on that negotiation council appointed by government? Why should government give you an appointment letter? Why should government give you an appointment letter? Because the public service that you are negotiating with, that is the employer, is a partner. Now, if one partner appoints you, what does that mean? It will not be right for you members of the trade union movement who are elected by your members to go the other side, and the other partner gives you an appointment letter for you to sit on the public service negotiation consultative council. It will not be right. And on top of that, the partner also pays you an allowance. These things, you look at them, they look very innocent. Oh, this is our government. Oh, we must get the money. Oh, we must do this. Do you know that money is very dangerous to negotiation? Do you know the appointment itself makes you even feel, some of you feel, a privilege to sit there, a great honor to sit there. You are not looking at sitting there from the perspective of advancing a cause. It is like the other party has already worked on you psychologically. He has given you an appointment letter. He is giving you an allowance. So you must behave. You must behave properly. But I want you to know very well there comes a time when you do not need to behave properly. If you are fighting for the rights of the working people, you will have to behave abnormally sometimes if you find the other parties are not listening so that you can get their attention. But if you are going to do that under the prevailing circumstances, I'm assuring you, it may not be very good for you. I would therefore want to think that we come back and re-examine this position, find out whether it is really ideal for us to get appointment letters, find out whether it is really reasonable for you to be paid an allowance. Government can give financial support to trade unions everywhere around the world. Is being done. It's not a problem. But let that money be delivered to a central fund. Like, for example, it can be given to a national center, specifically for promoting collective bargaining, education, whatever it is, because the citizens who are being educated are citizens of Uganda. They have a right to education, like they have a right to anything else. Let the money go to the national center or the national centers. And let the national centers designate that money, even if it is going to have subtitles indicating what it is supposed to do. You rather do so that the money you get is coming from a national center, but not, it is government is paying, yes, like they will send to the local government, and local government pays the staff the other side. It is okay. Let the money go to a national center. After collective bargaining, let the money come from the center. Let us build our own institutions. I know sometimes the centers have let us down by the way they have been administering themselves, but sometimes they behave like that because of ourselves. We ourselves let them behave like that. But if we choose not to, the centers will function. Personally, I've made a decision. I may look very unpopular in the way I'm going to behave. But if it comes to advocating for what I believe is right, I'm going to deal with everybody, whether you are at the center, whether you are at parliament, whether you are at the trade union level. The question of making friendship right now, for me, is not the most important thing. Because I do not need to have a friend who is going to aid me into doing things the wrong way. At the end of the day, the people whom we are presenting ourselves as representatives of will not benefit from our work. That will not be very reasonable. So, the public service negotiation consultative and dispute settlement machinery is not functioning. It is a means through which justice must be delivered to the workers, but it's not delivering justice. And I want to appeal to you, brothers and sisters, that we come back and sit down. Let us re-examine and find a way of how we can make this system function better. I would also want to appeal to the members to appreciate the fact that this thing of representing workers, when we say we are going to represent workers, be it in government, be it before any other employer, it is not about prestige. Let's spend less time emphasizing the importance, our importance, because we belong to these organs, and focus more on what it is that we are delivering to the people. Because we cannot have a system in place for 15 years, ever since the law was passed. Not even cases have been resolved. Why do we have a public service tribunal that is non-functional? And government is very reluctant in appointing members to the tribunal. And when they appoint members to the tribunal is not functional, it's not financed. And the trade unions were seated there watching. Every time we hold meetings, you introduce yourself as a member of the public service tribunal, but not presiding over a single case. You introduce yourself as a member of the public service negotiating and dispute settlement machinery council. You introduce yourself and make yourself to look so powerful. But look what the council has delivered. Really? The council has delivered nothing. Standing orders remain the same. Why do we even have them called standing orders in the first place? Why should we have those standing orders called standing orders? These were terminologies used by the colonial masters, by the way. It was like an order that has been made. Everybody must comply with it. You don't, whether it is wrong or right. If it is going to come, if it's a working terms and condition of service, that is going to come as a result of a negotiation. It does not need to be an order. It simply has to be working terms and conditions of service. And they should be administered with a lot of civility, not by way of intimidating the people. You find a communication like circular standing instruction. Circular standing instruction. Why do we use these terminologies? This is a letter from the permanent secretary. Permanent secretary has communicated. This is a position, please. But when you make it a circular standing instruction, it is sort of intimidative. It's like it's cast in stone. You don't need to challenge it. Everybody must. But there are certain provisions in these circular standing instructions which are wrong. And you members of the Public Service Negotiation Council, please listen and make sure you do something for the public servants. You are not going to be in the public service forever. People are suffering. Up country, people are suffering. Workers are really going through difficulties. They have nowhere to go. In fact, they have lost hope. But for us, we sit here in Kampala all the time, speak all sorts of English. But actually, when you look at what the English is delivering down here, you even wonder why the machinery exists in the first place. Maybe it has wrong people there, I don't know. But I would want to appeal to you, brothers and sisters, and to the system of the public service negotiation and dispute settlement machinery council or the tribunal. Whatever it is that the law is providing is something wrong, because it's not enabling us to deliver social and economic justice to the workers. For this cause, I would want to request you in good faith that this matter be re-examined, go to a retreat, make sure you agree, look at the possibility of reducing the numbers, look at the possibility of reconstituting the machinery and make it more functional, better than what it is doing right now. Thank you very much for listening to me.